Hello everybody and welcome here to the Wildlife Garden at the Presbytery in Tarbert. It's a beautiful setting for the Midsummer Feast of St. John the Baptist, and I can't help thinking of days gone past here when, since the 1800s, there were two priests, housekeeper, assistant, and they had a cottage industry living here, serving and ministering to the people in Tarbert. And it's just beautiful for us to honour them tonight as we sit here and we listen to the music and some poetry and some reflection. It's the Midsummer Feast of St. John the Baptist. St. John the Baptist happens to be the saint of the church where I live now in Ballybunion, and also the patron saint of the church where I lived previously in Tralee. And Paddy has asked me to mention this because there's a stained glass window in both churches, but particularly there is one in Tralee. And while I was there, we commissioned a new window by a man by the name of Tom Denny from England. He was a stained glass artist. But there was a reason behind it, because there was another St. John's Church in Tralee, which was St. John's Church of Ireland Church. And the Denny's, of course, were Church of Ireland. And this was just a lovely way of creating a window of reconciliation. And it was just a great act of reconciliation that Tom said yes to giving of his services to the stained glass window. And of course the contributions came from the people of Tralee and from the wider Denny family. And it was a lovely touch to honour, St. John the Baptist. And I'm delighted to welcome you here to the Presbytery and to the Presbytery grounds tonight. Thank you. Hope you enjoy the evening this evening.
Thanks very much, Sean. Thanks for that lovely welcome, and welcome everybody to what is now our 10th poetry reading, storytelling, music event that we've been running since the middle of April. It has grown legs, and we now have, I suppose, on average maybe something like 500 people looking forward to it every week. So it was set up really at the time, one, to give me something to do, and secondly more to maybe keep a relative level of calm around COVID. And tonight we're coming into phase 3 on Monday, I should say, I think a little later on we'll probably have some sounds from the football pitch, which is just over the wall there, because they're back and allowed back training as in from tonight. So it's great to see that level of return to normality, whatever that new normality is going to bring. Obviously we're all very cautious, but it's just lovely to be here, and tonight is our final night in this series, as we call it. What's going to happen next we don't know, and it's lovely, and we gave it the theme really, the long journey home, and I suppose we've given them all themes really, but I was always taken by, you know, when there are funerals here and the coffin is taken out of the church and it's brought the long way around to the grave, and I always thought that that was very symbolic. I'm not sure whether it is an Irish thing or what it is, but Father Sean might cover it or mention it or whatever at the end when he's talking about it. I just love that, like you said there, that respect that's paid to people that pass on. So first of all, yeah, I mean the music to start us off, Emma, my God, unbelievable. Thank you so much. Right, I have here with me, I have to say that we were co-stars, right, in a movie, right, in there at the end, and we had the last big night out in North Kerry on the 29th of February when this movie, The Field, which raised a huge amount of money, we think, for Listowel Celtic Soccer Club as part of a fundraiser. But we were in the field together along with Emma and Grace, who was her sister there beside us, in the field, and along with their mum and dad, Katrina and Paul. We were all in and part of this movie, The Field, right? So it's good, and these two musicians played the music on that movie. So I'm delighted to have you here. But they have a lot more strings to their bow than just that. Emma is 14, just finished first year in Gael Colostre in Tralee. She plays flute, tin whistle, piano, and enjoys step dancing. Grace is 12 and had her virtual graduation this afternoon from Gael School Listowel, where she is in 6th class. She plays concertina, tin whistle, bodhrán, and is an All-Ireland set dancing champion. She's also the 2020 Bardic Festival winner of the children's poetry competition with her poem entitled On Aimsha in Éireann, which we'll hear from later. So a big warm welcome to, I think it's Paddy Kyotos, is that your group? Yeah. So all that, lovely to see that culture being transferred on. So on to the programme itself, and I have first up tonight is Thomas O'Dowd, a native of Tarbert, best known far and wide as just Pad Joe, right? You know you've made it in Kerry when you're known either by your first name or your nickname or your pet name. In Thomas's case, I think he has both, right? So, you know, when people talk about Jacko and Mikey and all those kind of names here, we all know who they are, right? And the same with Thomas and Pad Joe. There's a mix, there's a warm mix for me anyway when I hear his poetry. In what he says and how he does it, and there's always that little pinch of mischief, as I call it, thrown into the mix. I love his work. He's a unique style. Thomas is a teacher in the St. Joseph's School for Visually Impaired in Drumcondra in Dublin, and he's going to read this poem, "The Long Journey Home," by Josh Burnett. So.
Thank you very much, Paddy. And in many ways, this poem is kind of a metaphor for life. We're all on a long journey, and sometimes we struggle, but eventually we do reach the golden light at the end of the tunnel. The Long Journey Home by Josh Burnett. I barely creep through this life on a long journey home. I dare not say one word, for you will hear me. I keep my head down, watching every bump and gully. I can hear you speak my name, but I dare not answer. I can feel the raindrops hitting the pavement of my life. I can hear the cracking boom of the thunder shaking the ground. I feel so lost and alone at times, with nobody to help me through. My knees feel like jelly shaking beneath my upper torso. My hands tremble as I reach out in front of me through darkness. My legs tremble as I begin to have second thoughts. My ears perk up as I hear the deadly rushing wind through trees. My lips quiver as the wind beats me in the face, driving me back. My eyes search for that glimmer of light above my head. My arms are heavy from the cold that's all around me. Thoughts run through my head of giving up. Thoughts of how much further I have to press onward. Thoughts of fighting the fiery trails through my veins. Thoughts of losing my feet on the ground. Thoughts of that harsh pain from long ago invade my mind. Thoughts of never being able to reach the end breaks me down. I think I will never make it to the end and get back home. I believe that my time has come to stop where I am and not press on. I believe it will only get harder as I put every mile behind me. I believe the thoughts of doubt and I begin to give in to them. I think that I will never see that light shining so brightly. I believe the echoes that invade my ears and my mind. I think that I am ready to lie down on the side of my journey. I can hear something echoing from afar. I can hear the faintest cries and screams carrying through the wind. I can hear words running through my mind of hope. I begin to press onward despite the wind pulling me back. I lean forward and embrace the wind and take one step forward. I can feel my feet moving one step at a time. I can feel my legs growing stronger than ever before. Could it be that this new feeling is what I've desired most? Could it be that there is a little spark of my heart? Could it be that spark is growing into a bright flame? Could it be that my mind is growing with hope? Could it be the fiery trails are starting to die down and turn to ash? Could it be that my feet have stopped trembling for the first time? Could it be that I am finally starting to believe? I begin to look behind me and everything seems dark and hopeless. I'm afraid to turn around and see what lies ahead of me. I turn ever so slightly and face forward. There it is, that hope right before my eyes. There I see it so clearly now, that beam of light. There in that beam, could it really be what I've been searching for? Yes, I believe that I have made it through my journey. Yes, I see that I have finally made it home.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you. What a moving delivery of a powerful, powerful poem. It would bring, I'll put the hair standing on the back of your head. It reminds me so much of my own struggles through life, I suppose, up to now, and all of that. But it's thank you so much.
More welcome, Paddy.
Absolutely. Lovely poem. So while we're on to my next guest, here, Tricia Healy. Tricia, we have shared platforms once before, I think, on poetry reading here in Tarbert. Tricia is a poetry and songwriter and is here today to read two poems. She's an artist working with semi-abstract work, mostly in acrylic, and uses some mixed media. To date she has had 3 exhibitions. In her day job, if I can say that, is a biodynamic and integrative psychotherapist working both in private practice and in hospice care in Tralee. She works with palliative patients and people close to death, their spouses, partners, children and families. She also works with both men and women who are experiencing domestic violence, an issue that has come to the fore during COVID. She also facilitates teenagers, women, marginalised groups in art and creative expression. Tricia is passionate about supporting people to live life fully and equally as passionate about supporting people to die well. So over to you, Tricia.
Thank you, Paddy. I'm going to read 2 poems today by Dennis O'Driscoll, who was a poet who I'd never heard of until I got this book, Being Alive. From Tipperary but lived in England, died very young and wrote so beautifully about life and the existential crisis. So I will start this poem. Life. Life gives us something to live for, We will do whatever it takes to make it last. Kill in just wars for its survival. Wolf fast food during half-time breaks. Wash down chemical cocktails as prescribed. Soak up hospital radiation. Prey on kidneys at roadside pile-ups. Take heart from anything that might conceivably grant it a new lease. We would give a right hand to prolong it. Cannot imagine living without it. And this is a little bit of a long one, but a beautiful one, called Missing God, again by Dennis O'Driscoll. His grace is no longer called for before meals. Farmed fish multiply without his intercession. Bread production rises through disease-resistant grains devised scientifically to mitigate his faults. Yet though we rebelled against him like adolescents, uplifted to see him, an oppressive father banished, a bearded hermit, to the desert, we confess to missing him at times. Miss him during the civil wedding, when at the blossomy altar of the registrar's desk we wait in vain to be fed a line containing words like everlasting and divine. Miss him when the TV scientist explains the cosmos through equations, leaving our planet to revolve on its axis aimlessly, a wheel skidding in snow. Miss him when the radio catches a snatch of plain chant from some echoey priory, when the gospel choir raises its collective voice to ask, shall we gather at the river? Or the forces of the oratorio converge on, I know that my Redeemer liveth, and our contracted hearts lose a beat. Miss him when a choked voice at the crematorium recites the poem about fearing no more the heat of the sun. Miss him when we stand in judgment on a lank crucifixion in an art museum, its stripe-like ribs testifying to rank. Miss him when the gamma rays recorded on the satellite graph seem arranged into a celestial score, the music of the spheres, the Ave Verum Corpus of the observatory lab. Miss him when we stumble on the breast lump for the first time and an involuntary prayer escapes our lips, when a shadow crosses our bodies on an X-ray screen, when we receive a transfusion of foaming blood sacrificed anonymously to save life. Miss him when we exclaim his name spontaneously in awe or anger as a woman in the birth ward calls to her long-dead mother. Miss him when the linen-covered dining table holds warm bread rolls, shiny glasses of wine. Miss him when a dove swoops from the orange grove in a tourist village just as the monastery bell begins to take its toll. Miss him when our journey leads us under leaves of Gothic tracery, an arch of overlapping branches that meet like hands in Michelangelo's creation. Miss him when trudging past a church, we catch a residual blast of incense, a perfume on par with the fresh-baked loaf which Milos compared to happiness. Miss him when our newly fitted kitchen comes in shaker style and we order a matching set of Mother Ann Lee chairs. Miss him when we listen to the prophecy of astronomers that the visible galaxies will recede as the universe expands. Miss him when the sunset makes its presence felt in the stained glass window of the fake antique lounge bar. Miss him the way an uncoupled glider riding the evening thermals misses its tug. Miss him as the lovers shrugging outside the cheap hotel ponder what their next move should be. Even feel nostalgic odd days for his second coming, like standing in the brick dome of a dovecote after the birds have flown.
Thank you, Trish. Two beautiful poems.
Fabulous.
Fabulous poems. Could there be more appropriate poems for what we're trying to do today and where we're located today and the theme of today? Thank you so much. Thank you. Now it's over or back to Grace Heffernan, who, as I said earlier, won the 2020 Bardic Festival for this poem, Oscailga. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Grace.
I'm sure in era le grace ni hiffernon. Bean she for is bean she fluck, is current she fucht na quera. Bean schnacht a bon an August shook, o knock bra on I'm sure in era. Bean she ag her schnachtas, bean lavini mavera, o con ton schnachte gemacht, and knock bra on I'm sure in era. Ní bhíonn si ro greenver, bín scamalins na spéirthe, bín si dearca ciúver, ó nach bra í an aimsir in éire.
Well done, fantastic. Thanks, thank you, Grace. I'm not going to attempt to try and translate it right. I did catch the couple of lines that said, "Isn't the weather great in Ireland?" Was that there? Did I get that right?
Yeah.
And I got things like "for" and "schnackte" and all those things that were beaten into us at school when Dave there on the camera wasn't listening right. But Grace, thank you so much. It's the rhythm and the rhyme of it, beautiful, and it does capture almost in music the tone of it. Thank you. So we're moving swiftly along, and just before I call on Father Sean to give us his spiritual reflection, just want to say by way of, what do we know about him, I suppose, and so by way of introduction I'm going to read what others said about him. This is when he left St. John's, which he mentioned earlier, after 8 years there in 2016. So this is the report. The popularity of Monsignor Sean Hannafin was evident by the massive crowd who showed up in the Meadowlands Hotel on Friday night to wish him well as he takes his sabbatical. A Tralee native, Father Sean has been in St. John's Parish for the past 8 years, was appointed Vicar General of the Diocese in December 2014, and he will now take a 1-year break before moving on to another parish. In 2017, Father Sean was appointed to Ballybunion as a parish priest. He has played a very active role here in Tarbert since then, and he is our moderator in Tarbert since 2019, where his popularity even exceeds that of what he achieved in Tralee. His passion for work and his ministry is extraordinary, but we are delighted that he does find time to take some time off to enjoy his favourite hobby on the fairways and greens of Ballybunion Golf Club. So over to you, Sean.
Thank you, Paddy. Thank you for the welcome and the research. Just going with the theme of tonight, there's a couple of lines from the Bible that we do hold, but one of them is a line that Jesus used trying to describe God. And he said, "Every hair on your head has been counted." Now, my imagination isn't great, but it doesn't take much imagination to just see the depth of how he was trying to describe God for the people he was talking with. That every hair on our head has been counted. Just for me, that every time I wash my hair, I leave it in the sink, so much of my hair, or in the shower, and yet there's a little bit more. What we're really saying is that every aspect of my life is loved by God. That there's no little hair that God doesn't give energy to, that God doesn't give attention to. Everything about us as human beings is loved by God. And whereas for myself, and possibly for other people, is there are lots of myself that I don't like, that I don't give attention to, that I try to run away from, and that I try to hide from. But I think the long journey home has to do with me recognizing that God loves every little bit of me, particularly the pieces maybe that I struggle with to like myself, the pieces about myself that I am disappointed with, that I get frustrated with, that I'm upset with, that I don't achieve, and there's a whole lot of me that maybe I don't like. And the long journey home is coming to realize, look, that God loves every bit of me, and that the more that I can, I suppose, allow myself to claim that, the more I'll be comfortable with the pieces myself that I don't like. And then maybe the long journey home will have been realised for me. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. So yeah, we're coming towards the end of our evening, and I'm just going to read one poem. I often ask myself, because nobody else really ever asks me anyway, what's your favourite poet and what's your favourite poem, right? So I'm coming to that, but and there are 4 or 5, but I have to say William Butler Yeats has to be up there at the very top, I think, for me. There's a wonderful exhibition that goes on all the time, permanently now, in the National Library in Dublin. And any of you ever get a chance to visit, and it's free, and it's an hour or two of the best places I've ever sat down and rested and looked at the life of William Butler Yeats. We haven't got time for all that tonight, or this evening, so I'm just going to read you what it says about him on this particular book. He was born in Dublin in 1865 and educated in London. The young Yeats spent much of his time in County Sligo, in the west of Ireland, the home of his mother's family. He became passionately interested in Irish myths and legends, the inspiration for many of his plays and early poems. Yeats was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1923. He died in France in 1939, and 9 years later his body was brought back to Sligo. He's buried in Drumcliff, at the foot of his beloved Ben Bulben Mountains in County Sligo. Another must visit if you're up in that area. There's a nice little introduction to this poem. I think sometimes the introductions are as good as the poems. So it just says here, the Song of Wandering Angus, which is my favourite poem, is one of William Butler Yeats' most beautiful lyrics. He tells the story of a love fleeting, experienced and lost forever. The poem was inspired by Maud Gonne, a passionate young Irish revolutionary with whom Yeats fell hopelessly in love. Repeatedly rejected by her, he turned to ancient Irish mythology and to find expression for his loss and yearning. By giving voice to his most personal emotions in the age-old story of Angus, the young Yeats crafted a poem that continues to speak to us today. In this reinterpretation in picture book form, which is what I'm reading from, Martina Mann-Collins' watercolours evoke the timeless feelings of lost love expressed in Yeats' poem. The Song of Wandering Angus by William Butler Yeats. I went out to the hazel wood because a fire was in my head, and cut and peeled a hazel wand and hooked a berry to a thread. And when white moths were on the wing and moth-like stars were flickering out, I dropped the berry in a stream and caught a little silver trout. When I had laid it on the floor, I went to blow the fire aflame, but something rustled on the floor and someone called me by my name. It had become a glimmering girl with apple blossom in her hair, who called me by my name and ran and faded through the brightening air. Though I am old with wandering through hollow lands and hilly lands, I will find out where she has gone and kiss her lips and take her hands and walk among long dappled grass, and pluck till time and times are done the silver apples of the moon, the golden apples of the sun. I suppose the last 3 lines of those wonderfully well-known 3 lines, and it's a lovely finish for me anyway to the theme of the long journey home. To pluck till time and times are done the silver apples of the moon, the golden apples of the sun. So that's a little bit of William Butler Yeats. He was as mad as a brush, but sure. He was some poet. Brilliant, brilliant, absolutely. And his story is just amazing, amazing. Where does that leave us? Yeah, we've kind of come to the end of both tonight or this evening, and indeed to the whole 10 episodes or 10 sessions, which, as I said, was poetry reading, storytelling, music, song, spiritual input tonight from my native place here in Tarbert, which is on the very edge of the Shannon Estuary, with its beauty, wildlife, fauna and flora, its history and lore, which is all about us really. And just, I suppose, a couple of 100 yards over the wall here, we're actually on the Shannon Estuary. I hope you have also got an insight into the people and their creative talents over the last 10 weeks who have been guests here from time to time. Thanks to all who took part in all the episode, and today a very special thanks to Emma and Grace, to Paddy here, or Thomas O'Dowd, Tricia, Father Sean, to my tried and trusted cameraman Dave here for the last 10, and a special mention to Niall Fitzgerald, who has successfully loaded up all of the previous episodes on YouTube, which is a free channel under the name Poetry with Paddy, I think he called it. So very finally, just say that all of this is done also in aid of the Adopted Foundation that I try and support, the Rise Foundation, and you can donate there on www.therisefoundation.ie. Nothing else for me to say other than Slán agus Beannacht. And if there was one caption that I think captured COVID-19 over the last 3 months, it was that lovely Irish saying, Ní ceart go cur le céile. Ní ceart go cur le céile. There is no strength without unity, and maybe time in history will show that was maybe the main reason why we came through it. So, with all of that, both Grace and Emma are going to play us home on that long journey home.